90% of violence is committed by one gender. Okay? If that is the case, and you don't make gender and you don't make masculinity a central component of how you want to deal with violence, if you don't do that, you are being intellectually dishonest. And you're also going to be totally impotent in how you deal with this issue. Because the only way to deal with something in the real world is to understand it the way you understand it in its reality and in its complexity. And if you don't do that, if you continue to avoid the issue of masculinity, we are condemned to live in ignorance and denial of one of violence's most major dimensions. And we have no chance of solving the problem. We have no chance. And if you want to deal with sexual assault, we've also got to be really honest around that as well. Actually, more honest than I mean. It's amazing how honest you've been already in terms of the leadership that you've provided on this. But I think we have to be even more honest. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that 90% of men are violent. As Jean mentioned before, it's only actually a very small minority of men who are violent. But 90% of violence is committed by men. And I believe that the only way that we will deal with this is if, in fact, that large majority breaks the silence. Because we are complicit through our silence in what is going on. And it's only breaking the silence. And one of the things that Jackson has taught me is that silence in the face of oppression is a form of complicity and consent. And it's only once we break the silence we have any chance of dealing with it. Language matters. The language that we use really does matter. For example, I try not to use that phrase, violence against women. So I think it's a very bad phrase. For one thing, it's a very bad piece of writing. Like, there's nothing active in the everyone tells you you have to have the active part of a sentence. There's nothing active in it. In fact, all you have in there is an object of the violence. Yeah, violence against women, that's a women's issue, right? We have rape crisis centers and women's studies center departments in universities that deal with that, right? It's a women's issue, violence against women. Well, you only got to put one word in that to change whose problem it is. Who's doing the violence? Right? You immediately become a better writer because you've now got a subject of the violence as well as an object of it. And you're now being into it. Men's violence against women makes that a men's issue, not a women's issue. Of course, women have a role to play in this, but essentially it is a men's issue. And until men take it seriously, and until we, in fact, organize around it, until we break our silence, we have not a hope in hell of dealing with that issue. That's why it's very encouraging. The fact that we're gathered here today is a recognition that the top leadership in the Army has learned this lesson. It is really, really encouraging. You are way ahead of the rest of the culture. I speak at universities all the time, and I try and convince universities to take this on. You think universities would want to? No university will even touch this with a 10-foot barge pole. Because in fact, to do it means they have to admit the problem of sexual assault, which means that their enrollments will suffer, they think. And so for them, it's a PR problem. It's not a real, the problem is a PR problem. And so universities are silent on this. University presidents, who you would think will be dealing with this, are absolutely silent on this. And that is why I'm really encouraged, at the kind of work that is being done in the military. And the same way, again, as Frederick mentioned before, the same way that the military took the lead, that the Army took the lead around racism and integrated the armed forces before the rest of the society was integrated and was a leader in that. I think actually you have the same chance of doing that around issues of gender violence and sexual assault, of taking that kind of leadership position. I said that's why I'm really very encouraged by what the program is doing and by being here today.